The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
On this episode of the Alldus podcast, we're talking about the new PWC report that shows many companies are still experimenting with AI, but very few are turning it into real profit. We're joined by Martin Duffy, who's head of GenAI at PWC Ireland, to break down what this means for Irish businesses and what leaders should do next. Martin, thanks very much for coming onto the podcast today.
My pleasure, Mark. Thanks a million for having me.
Your background, we were kind of talking off air, so you were working in SaaS for quite a bit of time, nearly 25 years.
Yeah.
Then close to 9 years with PwC as well. You've been in this industry quite a while.
Yeah, I started into the whole AI area back when I was working for SaaS in the UK, which was in 1993. We started looking at neural networks. And way back then, the technology was very, very immature. So we had one machine, and SaaS was a multi-billion-dollar company at that stage. We had one machine in the entire company that could run the software, and that was a DEC Alpha. And the maximum number of connections you could have was 100. Fast forward now, you're looking at GPTs with over 1 trillion connections. You're looking at capabilities beyond what we ever dreamt of. But back in those days, it was really kind of the start of the machine learning, data mining world, which later became data science.
Yeah. In your role day to day, and we're going to kind of jump into the report in a moment, you have this mindset within the business of client zero.
Yes.
And I found this pretty kind of fascinating with AI introductions, the challenges, the positive benefits. And you kind of made it to say that before we engage with a customer, we're going to go on this journey ourselves and then speak congruently about it. Has that been quite a mindset shift?
So we started on our AI journey back in 2023. So GPT-3 had come out late 22, and PwC decided, well, we already had our responsible AI framework going back into 2016, 2017, but we felt that AI was going to be a big shift. So one of the first things that we did was we developed our own AI user interface, let's put it that way, which we called imaginatively Chat PWC. And that allowed us to access multiple models. So we had Gemini at the time. I think it wasn't called Gemini, but we had the Google models, we had the OpenAI models, and we've since expanded that out for Anthropic. But that kind of set the tone for us, that we were going to actually understand these technologies, apply it within our own business, and then from that, we could share our experiences with our clients.
Yeah.
And that journey has been a really interesting. I would love to say we've covered ourselves in glory at every step. Not the case. We've had our ups and our downs, but the learnings from it have been immense.
What I also found interesting was you're splitting your role between internally coordinating the work across the team at PwC, but then also speaking to customers about the opportunities with this technology, but also the challenge with that. We were speaking about initially we might be thinking this is a technology journey, but we are also kind of seeing that this is so much more.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably the biggest learnings that we've had from the Client Zero program that we continue to run. We started out thinking this is going to be a technology deployment. We'll train everyone how to prompt and we'll be finished and we'll move on. We're still training people because the technologies keep on evolving. And at the same time, very, very quickly, we discovered this has actually got very little to do with technology. This is about asking people to change how they work, to change how they think, to change how they approach their job. So it's very much around human centricity. It's around change management. And as soon as you start to look at it in those lights, you see the things like, security becomes really important because you want to make sure that people feel as though their data is secure with what they're doing. Compliance with regulatory environments become hugely important, particularly with the EU AI Act. And on top of that, then that starts to move you towards a trust mindset. So as we go through every decision we make around AI, at the back of our minds, we're asking the question, is this going to increase trust or is this going to erode trust? And if it erodes trust, that then becomes quite a strong consideration in us not doing it.
What I also found very, very impressive was we know that attitudes are incredibly important.
Yes.
And people will either adopt this or they won't. And for an awful lot of them, they're scared or they're worried or they're concerned. You made a statement to say to all employees, we're not going to use AI to remove your job. We want you to lean in and utilize it. Tell me about that.
So very early on, PWC Ireland decided that we were going to focus on automation of tasks, not automation of roles, because we wanted our employees to really wrap their arms around these technologies. As we started to roll these out, we found that the adoption kind of profile was very different to what we expected. The under 30s adopted it, and we expected that because they've been raised digital. But the over 50s were really heavy adopters of it. And we were surprised at that. And when we looked into it, it was because they felt they had to do it to remain relevant. Where we had our challenge was the 30 to 50-year-olds. And so in order to get them engaged, we asked them what was holding them back. And they were saying, we're too busy to learn this. So we focused then on getting them to use it in their own private life. So helping them use it with their children for homework, or if they're going for a weekend away, planning an itinerary, which restaurants to go to. And as soon as they started using it in their home life, they immediately started adopting it in their work life. So it's really about trying to get traction and trying to get mind share with people. Once you do that, then it becomes an awful lot easier.
I love that example. It's funny because I offer two similar examples. So the first example I use, I created a little project on ChatGPT called Mark's Health.
Yeah.
And I put my DEXA scan, my blood test results, my MRI, all the information up there, my fridge in terms of what's in the fridge for recipes. And I say to it, give me a lesson plan for workouts based on my history. What does this medication do for me? What about these foods? And I feel like I'm getting a personalized, specialized kind of PT as well as kind of nutritionist.
Brilliant.
Which really helps me lean in. And then even from finance, I'm trying to save for a car.
Yeah.
I give it my bank statements, my credit card statements, and it's like, stop spending money on Lego. Stop going to the art of the coffee. Right? So it's giving you that feedback.
Yeah.
So then you're thinking, okay, well, I'm using it for this, and now I'm kind of hooked. The business applications start to come through. So you're meeting people where they're at, and they have to get a win to continue on that journey.
Exactly. And the wins are very different depending upon what your role is and what you're trying to achieve. A lot of organizations are focusing on AI being a cost takeout. So what I always say to my clients is, you have one of three choices with AI. You can do the same with less, you can do more with the same, or you can be different. But you can't do all three. So you have to choose one.
Yeah.
And most organizations naturally lean towards doing the same with less.
Yeah.
But it's a limited amount that you can save from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that we've seen from our performance survey is that the top performing organizations, the ones who are getting the most out of AI, were the ones who are focusing on growth. So doing more with the same.
At Alldus, we're helping companies hire professionals in the field of cybersecurity and AI on permanent and contract. And our differentiator is we're helping companies hire people that we really trust. And we build that trust through referrals. Over 85% of the people that we place into roles on contract or permanent are through referrals, or people we know who recommend them. This is really important, particularly in the world of cyber, where you want to have professionals who are really good at their job, who are trusted, and they can come in and add value to your business. On contract, we've got some of the most niche skills available for people to hire, but also we're introducing virtual CISOs. CISOs that can come in and work in your business between 1, 2, 3, 4 days a month, if not a little bit more. If you're interested in finding out a little bit more about the services Alldus provide, please feel free to get in touch. Now back to the show. So what's the one main takeaway from the PwC report that every leader should look at? Would it be that point that you mentioned?
So what I'd say is that at the moment, what we're seeing is a concentration of value. We're seeing about 75% of the value is sitting with 20% of the organisations. Now, this is a global survey, so it includes Irish organisations in it as well. There's about 1,200 organisations globally. And there's a few things that we've noticed about that kind of top 20%. The first one is they've got very good governance. So that's not something that you would normally equate, that governance equals value.
Yeah.
Secondly, they seem to be very, very good at using AI in a responsible manner and putting responsible structures around it. And when you look at that and then look at where they're getting value, which is mainly from growth mindset, you're really looking at companies who are taking a very mature approach to this.
Yeah.
They're not looking at it to be a slash and burn, let's save money, let's take cost out of the business. They might be doing that in pockets, but overall they're using this as a platform for growth.
Why do you think they're doing it versus others? Is it because leaders have got a better mindset? Are they winning the hearts and minds of people? Have they got more practical use cases? Is there anything that actually kind of jumped out there?
So we're seeing this across a wide range of industries. So it's not specific to financial services or to manufacturing. This is covering all industries in that top 20%. What we see from our interactions with clients in Ireland is the ones who are gaining biggest traction with this are the ones who are doing a top-down, so leadership-led view, AI is part of our business, but also support from the bottom up. We're seeing the best use cases coming from the people who are using it on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
It's not coming from someone, in PwC saying, oh, you should automate this task. It's actually coming from the people who, on a day-to-day basis, are running those tasks and understand them at a far more fundamental level.
Yeah. And Irish firms are trying AI, but profits aren't keeping up with global peers. Do you think there's any reason for the gap?
So I think part of it is we've gone through a period of economic uncertainty between tariffs and now energy crisis, and that makes it all very difficult. But also, I think with Irish organisations, the mindset is normally to be a fast follower.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad mindset in this space, because if you were always at the leading edge, you'd be jumping from one LLM model to another. What I think the really successful companies in Ireland that I'm talking to are doing is they're not looking upon this as being something that's a fad. They're looking upon this as being fundamentally going to change their operating model. They're looking very much at using process redesign as being the key driver of not just adoption, but actually value from this. AI is an enabler, but actually it's only one of a whole bunch of different enablers. Process design is really important. Workforce planning is really important. Upskilling is really important. So there's a lot of different levers you have to pull at the same time to get a lot of value.
Yeah. What are the top three things a business leader in Ireland should do this year to move from the experiments or the kind of the pilot purgatory to actually trying to get real results?
So the first thing I'd say is choose your mindset. Are you really going to choose a mindset that says this is all about taking cost out? Or are you going to choose a mindset that says this is about growth? Or are you going to choose a mindset that says, right, we're going to use this to innovate and to be different? Now, you don't have to choose one mindset for the entire organization. Different functions can have different mindsets, and that's fine. Something like a finance function, you're not going to find a massive amount of innovative use of AI there. But you might find that by automating tasks and using agents within the function, you're freeing up your accountants to actually analyze your business and to make better planning and better information to the management team. So the first one is to choose your mindset. The second one is be a leader. If your employees see that you're skeptical about AI, they're not going to adopt it. You have to actually stand up and use it. And then the final thing I'd say is, remember, this is about people. The technology is going to change. The technology is not the important thing. You're asking people to think different, to work different. And that's scary for an awful lot of people. But actually, if you do it in the right way, if you manage to change, if you focus on human centricity, then you will win.
Yeah. Martin Duffy, Head of GenAI at PWC Ireland, thanks very much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.